Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as we do a twist on herringbone, creating this embraced bracelet. Remember, if you need any supplies, go ahead and check out the links below the video in the description to shop with us online. Gather everything up and let's get started. So to begin our design, we are going to begin with 11 rows of ladder stitch, doing 2 drops. So 2 beads go on, 2 more beads go on. I'm using the dragon thread cord, 0.005, along with a size 12 needle. I'm going to go back through the first 2 beads away from the stop bead and sew up. If you don't know herringbone, it might be a good idea to watch the basic herringbone, flat herringbone video prior to getting into one that has a twist with it. From here, I'm sewing back down through my second set of beads. 2 more beads get added. My thread's coming out the bottom of those 2 beads, and I'm going to sew into the top. Pulling all that thread through, I'm going to sew up through the 2 beads that I just added. Once again, 2 more beads go on of that Duracoat galvanized gold. Thread's coming out the top, I sew into the bottom of those 2 beads. Then sew down through the 2 beads that you just added. You can see I have 4 on now. I'm going to continue on, getting to a total of 11 rows of this ladder stitch. After adding in your 11th ladder stitch row, you're going to add 12 total seed beads. These are going to be 6 to one side of the herringbone and 6 to the other. This is what's going to create that long twisting effect. I have 12 beads on my needle and thread coming out the top of that 12th row. I'm going to sew down through the 2 beads on the 11th row and set those beads right in a loop on top. From here, I want to add 3 of my 11-0 seed beads. I'm going to skip over row number 9, and I'm going to sew up row number 8. So you can see those 3 beads just kind of hang out there on the bottom. Once again, 12 beads, 6 for one side. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 6 more for the second side. Once you have those 12 beads on, you're going to come down through row number 7. And we're going to proceed like this till we get our 4 loops. Coming out the bottom here, 1, 2, 3 seed beads, skip over the next row and go in to the next one. Coming out the top again, once again, 12 beads. Once those 12 beads are on, sew down through that 4th row, add 3 beads, skip over the 3rd row, and sew up the 2nd row. Coming out that 2nd row, once again, 12 beads. And then sew down row number 1. That's going to get us in position now to get ready to have that herringbone start to do its twist. Once you're done making your 4 loops, you're going to start with your 15-0 seed beads, adding 2, and you're going to sew up through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 seed beads. Because remember, 6 are on each side of our herringbone. This first side here is not going to twist. The second one will, so keep that in mind. From here, we're going to continue with that 6-drop herringbone. So each side is going to have 6 beads. There's 6. 6 more for the second side. And those 6 beads on one side, 6 beads on the other, get added. From here, you're going to sew down through 3 beads on the second side of that loop. So just beads number 6, 5, and 4 out before bead number 3. Now you're going to notice with this long herringbone that it naturally is going to want to start to twist. We're going to force that twist and start that twist to go inward. You don't really need to worry about it right now, but as we go bigger, it will start to twist. From here, we're going to add one of our 4mm crystal beads. Coming over to the second set, we are going to do the twist here. I'm going to twist the beads. Now, when I'm twisting them, I still want to think about side 1 as 6 beads and side 2 as 6 beads. I'm going to go to side 2, and I'm going to sew through beads 4, 5, and 6. And what that's going to do is create that twist in the herringbone stitch. See that twist right there? That's what we want. Again, with our 11 seed beads, 12 more beads go on. And once those 12 beads are on, we're going to sew down through those 3 beads from side number 1 and out. From here, we're going to add a 6mm pearl. Again, going over, you see naturally it wants to break that 6 side on one, 6 side on the other. Go into the second side, and you're sewing through beads 4, 5, and 6. Naturally then, that's going to cause that herringbone to turn. From here, once again, 1, 2, on with 12 beads. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sew down through the 3 from side number 1. From here, add one of your 4mm crystals. This outer side here, we're just going to go through side number 1. We'll create the spin or the turn after. Going through beads 4, 5, and 6. Once again, 12 beads go on, so it's always 12. And you're going to go down through the first bead on row number 2, just 1. When you get to the outer edges, we're just going to go through 1 bead. And that's going to set us up for that first row. Looks a little funky, I know. It'll start to turn and twist as we create and add onto our rows. Once you're off the side then through that single bead, what you're going to do is turn that last herringbone stitch so that way you see that curvature happening in the middle, that twisting. And I'm going to go back up through these 6 beads that are on that opposite twisted side. So you can see here, you're going through that first one. I'm going to twist that, and then I'm going to go through the 6 on that side and out. When we're twisting, the most important thing to keep track of is that you're twisting the same way. So we're always going to twist in toward the project. From here, once again, we're over and over. That we're going to go in here. We're going to add our 12 beads. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're going to get very good at counting to 12. And then once again here, just curving that in, making sure that that twist is happening, going down through 3 beads. When I come out through these 3 beads now, I'm going to switch to a pearl. So I'm always going to alternate whether or not I pick up the pearl or the 4mm. Once again, in the middle here, I want to keep with that same curve, so I'm curving down, going over. And it's awkward to do it as I'm recording, and try to hold it so you can see it. Go through those last 3 beads on that side. Pulling that, see how that curve's happening already? And that will curve in. This one now, 12 more beads go on. Once I have those 12 beads on, I'm going to go down through the 3 beads on the opposite side. So you're always concentrating when you get to the middle rows of your herringbone stitch on those 3 beads. Coming out there, once again, I'm switching from my pearl, because a pearl was first, to my crystal. Going in here, and I'm going to turn my herringbone stitch. So see how I'm creating that turn. And I'm making sure not to turn it the opposite way. You want to turn it where it's naturally going. So you're always twisting the same direction. Once again, then here, after I have my crystal on and I have that turn established, I'm going to sew up through the 3 beads of the herringbone stitch. Again, allowing that turn to happen. So it looks like you're sewing into the opposite side because, again, we're creating that twist or that turn. From here, 12 more beads go on. And then once those 12 beads go on, 6 to each side, I'm once again sewing down the 3 beads on the opposite side of the herringbone that I have not sewn into yet. From here, pearl goes on. And you can see in the sample piece, it's all the 4mm crystals. So you can alternate, see what you want to do. And then when you get here to the side, once again, we want to start that turn. So you see how if I sew here on these 3, it's going to be straight. I want that turn in. So I force that turn to happen. And then once again, sew through the last 3 beads on that side of the herringbone. Bring your needle and thread up, through, and then once again, 12 beads on. So you can start to see that twisting and that turning occurring. And the more you get into it, obviously, the more that you're going to see the effects. So here's 3, 6, and I have my 9 and my 12. Once again, I've already gone through that first side. I'm going to go down through the 3 on the other, or sorry, just down 1 on the other side, because we're on the outside. Just down 1. So see how this naturally wants to turn anyway? You're going to continue that turn, adding 1, 2 15s, and then sewing up through the 6 beads on the side. And there you have that twist again. So see that twist is naturally starting. Once again, 12 beads go on. And then once you have those 12 beads on, we are going to once again go in to that second set of beads. So into the 3. And it looks like this side is not turning. Once we come back to it, we'll force that turn in. From here, you've got a crystal that you're going to put on right above the pearl. Go on over to the next set. Make sure that turn is happening in the same direction. Up through the last 3 beads on that side. Again, add your 12 beads. Go through those next 3 after you add the 12. Add a pearl up through those 3, continuing to make sure that as you're going through, that you're forcing that turn. So when I get over to this side here, I'm going to make sure to force that turn and that curvature as I go in and add my next row. It's going to be repetitive over and over again, counting to that 12, twisting the herringbone before it, and then sewing down 3, adding a bead, up 3. 12 beads, down 3, add a bead, up 3. Again, when you get to the side, you're just going to go down 1 bead from the previous row, add 2 15s, and then back up through. So it's over and over and over again, creating that turn, creating that twist, making sure whichever way you're twisting is the way that you see that curvature happening, because you don't want it to have an opposite effect where you don't see that curve. So here on the side, see my curve is going that way. I'm going to turn that curve, exaggerate it as I come back around. So as you're progressing, you're going to see this natural twist and this natural turn start to happen. One thing you want to be careful of as you're watching is, or as you're doing it, is that your turn goes the correct direction. So I have here my next set of herringbone, my crystal is on, and I'm ready to sew through. I want to look, if I turn this way, it's actually the wrong way, because you can see following it, this whole line of seed beads is going over twice. going over the bottom row again. You always want to make sure that it's going over or under. So I'm going to go in, force that turn to happen the opposite direction, turning under, and then I'm ready to go, sewing up through those 3 beads on the correct side. So you just want to make sure as you're going and sewing that you're twisting in the correct form, in the correct way. Because you want to always twist so that each strand goes over, then under, then over, then under. And see how that corrects that strand then. So now it goes under that one, over this one. And it's ready to go then to continue that nice form of that twist that's going on. It's always going to look like you're not twisting when you have the previous row on. So you want to make sure as you're going here, once again, this one here is going to get twisted that way. So that way you can see that twisting occur. You might need to do that and force that twist to occur as you're going, and you don't really need to worry about it until you're getting ready to sew right through the piece. Once you have your desired length, it's time to basically downgrade to get our end to look like our start. So I'm coming out of my last section of my herringbone, and I've added onto my thread and needle 4 beads, 2 for each side, to match again that starter side. I'm going to then take my thread and needle, make my twist there, go down through my 3 beads just like normal, grab on my appropriate bead, which would be my crystal, go over to the middle, make sure my twist is occurring, add once again, going through the 3 beads that sit on the one side. Again, just 4 of my 11 seed beads. Coming down the opposite side, going down through the 3 beads. So I'm still doing the exact same technique. I'm making sure also that I'm ending with the same that I started with. So I'm making sure that I'm ending with the pearl in the middle, which is how I started. You don't have to have it that way. That's just my preference. From here, again, 4 beads go on, down through, add my final crystal, and then once again back up through those final 3 beads. Oh, and over here on the side, make sure I twist that, and then go up through those 3 beads. Here on the side, once again, add 4 beads to complete that herringbone style. Now that those 4 beads are on there, that's what we're going to connect to create our ladder stitch, adding in 1 extra row of our beads between each and linking them together to pull them back into that kind of braided look. From here, coming out the side, I'm adding 2 15-ohs, and then I'm gonna go through those final 2 beads that I just added. Once I'm through those 2 beads, creating that twist, I'm going to sew down through the next 2 beads. So I'm grabbing on to those 4 beads that I used at the end. From here, I'm going to grab 2 more beads, sew back through the 2 that my thread is currently coming out of, and pull that together. So back up through the 2 that I just added. Now on to my next herringbone row. Down through the 2 beads that sit on the left-hand side there. Back up through those 2 to the left. Once again now through those 2 beads that are already there. Grabbing on that herringbone stitch through the 2 beads that are next. Then getting ready, 2 more beads get added, and sew up through those 2 beads once again. So you're just reversing the ladder stitch, catching on to the 2 beads in the herringbone row, and then in between the rows where your beads are sitting, you're just adding 2 more beads to it. Coming out from those 2 beads that are going to sit above the bead, go over to your next herringbone or your row and grab those last 2 beads. So I'm coming out of the bottom of the 2 beads that I just added, and I'm going from the bottom to the top. And you can see how this is pinching these together and making our sides match. So I'm just running down the sides here, adding in my stitch. 2 more beads get added right after that second side of the herringbone. I ladder stitch them on there, and then we'll add and grab onto our last row. Back up through. So all we're doing is a complete repeat of the starting side. And then when you look side to side, they're going to match from my one side to the other side. Now I do have extra seed beads that sit on the edge here. We're going to add those in as well as we come back through the design and attach our clasp. So to make the sides match completely now so I can get ready for my clasp, I'm going to put on two 15-0 seed beads. I'm out the side here. I'm going to skip over my first bead and go up into my second bead. From here, I'm going to sew down through my second row of that ladder stitch, add my 3 beads like the previous side, skip over the next row, and go into the next herringbone. Sew through the first 2 beads, then up through the second 2 beads going the opposite direction. Once again, 3 seed beads go on, skip over that middle section that we just added, go up through the last 2 herringbone beads, or the first 2 rather, and then down through the second 2. Again, add 3 beads, skip over that middle one, through there, and then back up through the other side. So you're just reinforcing that last connection point with all of those groupings of 2 beads. Now when you look at both sides of the bracelet, they're going to match exactly with those beads being in there. This is going to give us an opportunity to add our clasp, which I'm using a beautiful, it's going to be the centerpiece of my project, a ClaspGarten clasp with a crystal sunflower. So I'm going to be adding that in there. It is a 3-strand clasp, and I'm going to be connecting to all 3 sections there of those 3 seed beads. That's why we put them there. It was very intentional. If you're doing a single strand, you can add to the middle there. It is a wider bracelet, showing it on my wrist here. And looking inch-wise, it is going to be on the wider side. So it's going to be a full 1.25 inches when you're looking at it. And because of that, you may want a wider or a multi-strand clasp. So I'm going to get ready to start connecting my clasp closure to this one side, utilizing that group of 3 seed beads that arch between our herringbone rows. So I've already gone on the other side and attached the clasp there, and I'll show you how we are going to attach using the tongue on the opposite side. So I need to move the beads across there. We are coming out the last of our ladder stitch row. I'm going to go down through the next one, again treating these groups of 2. And I took the stop or the starter bead off there. I'm going to go up through that middle between the 2 rows of herringbone. So through the middle bead from the right to the left, causing it to circle around. So through that first loop of the tongue. So back through that same bead. So my thread's coming out the left-hand side there. I'm going to go into the right. And then back down through that same 2 bead row of my ladder stitch. From here, go up through the next row, down through the next 2, and then once again, I'm in the middle, right there between the pearl, up through the 2, through the middle bead from the right to the left, through the center, back through the middle bead from the right to the left to pull that to center, making sure your thread's not looping over anything. And then once again, back down through those middle 2 beads. I'm going to do that a 3rd time. Give that tight little pull. Up through the next row of your ladder stitch, down through the next row of your ladder stitch, just the 2 beads, and then once again up through the middle. When I'm up through the middle, coming out that center bead there, catching on to my last loop, catching back on to that same seed bead from the right to the left, so that way it always sits centered, and then back down that second, or that grouping of 2 beads that sit above the crystal. From here, you're going to sew back through the ladder stitch, down and up through those 2 beads as the rows of herringbones go. And then to reinforce, we're going to go up through our second row, up through the first bead in that grouping of 3, through the center bead in that grouping of 3 beads that sit at the top, once again through the loop, back through that center bead and through the next loop, or through the next bead that sits after. From here, go down the ladder stitch, go up the ladder stitch through that center bead there, or the top bead there, through the center bead, loop around, back through the center bead over to the side, and reinforce, zigzagging through to get that second loop reinforcement. Once you have the second loop reinforcement, you're going to tie off your thread, sewing back a little bit, and then burn down the thread edge. What that's going to leave you with is this beautiful, it's a little big on me because I like to make sure that it fits others, this beautiful, beautiful bracelet. As that clicks in, you see that gorgeous look of the pearls and the crystals being embraced as you wear it. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember, if you do need any materials to do this beautiful embraced bracelet, you can check out the links in the description below the video. You can also post comments and helpful hints if you want to help out other Potomac beaders that may be watching the video. We love your feedback as well, so we know what type of designs you want to see. As always, you can post your own designs in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and on to the next video.